Hey, this is Ciderhelm, and today I'm going to be covering the differences and similarities between League of Legends made by Riot Games and Heroes of Newerth made by S2 Games. Heroes of Newerth and League of Legends are both part of the MOBA genre, otherwise known as multiplayer online battle arena games. These games are purely PvP arenas and have no significant PvE elements to them at all. Both games take core concepts from the original Dota, and their 5v5 maps are very similar to the original Dota map. All of this said, the goal of this movie is to cover the differences between the games, either for people who may want to switch from one game to the other, or for people coming from Dota, or for people who want to decide which they want to choose as their first MOBA game. I'm not going to go in-depth on how the games are played, that information will come from other movies. Let's start off with the core differences. First, Heroes of Newerth costs $30, and with that purchase you have everything in the game. Additionally, paid accounts can give away several 10-game free trials to their friends, so it's entirely possible to give the game a try if you have a friend who owns it. League of Legends is a free-to-play game where you'll need to purchase heroes you're interested in, either through real money or in-game currency. With the release of Heroes of Newerth 2.0, both games now have heavy micropayment systems. However, Heroes of Newerth's offerings are strictly cosmetic, whereas League of Legends encourages you to pay real money for many things that affect the in-game experience, including experience and currency boosts and champions that take an extremely long time to earn if you try to use the in-game currency. League of Legends and Heroes of Newerth have very different art styles. Heroes of Newerth tends towards a grittier, darker, and much more clearly defined environment. As a general rule, the models are handled a lot better on a technical level in Heroes of Newerth. League of Legends has a much brighter style, more similar to the colors you'd see in World of Warcraft or virtually any Japanese teen anime. That said, the visuals in League of Legends are crystal clear and the characters are still distinguishable. League of Legends has been accused of fan service, with all of their female heroes being large-breasted and scantily clad. This is not true. There are at least 7 female champions which do not fit this statement. Riot Games makes up for the more basic graphics engine by providing a lot of customizability in the form of custom skins for their characters. Though Heroes of Newerth just started doing this, League of Legends has a massive library of skins available for people willing to spend the cash. Both League of Legends and Heroes of Newerth are excellent visual experiences insofar as they do not distract the player from the action. Personally, I prefer Heroes of Newerth, but it really doesn't matter much and it's up to the player. Heroes of Newerth and League of Legends are each missing a key component to competitive play that the other has. Heroes of Newerth has a rich replay system and extensive stat tracking, which makes it an easier game to cast and review gameplay. League of Legends, on the other hand, does not have replays but does have a functioning matchmaking system. After thousands of games of Heroes of Newerth, we switched to League of Legends literally only for the functional team matchmaking. With Heroes of Newerth 2.0, S2 has released team matchmaking. However, it has not been out long enough to know how well it will work. If it works well, Heroes of Newerth will have significantly stronger offering and overall game functionality. What are the big differences in game mechanics? In Heroes of Newerth, the game is generally best played by ensuring a single player becomes extremely strong. This player is called a carry. Good teams will usually try to let a carry get the last hits on opposing heroes, giving them the gold for the kill. Good teams will also support their carry in more ways, such as making sure they're getting last hits on creeps and making sure they're kept safe until later game, when the carry has scaled enough to win the game. Part of the reason for this is that many heroes don't scale well in Heroes of Newerth. Or, if they do scale, they do so primarily through their abilities. Carry classes, though, scale extremely well, but require some ramp-up time before they reach their strongest points. With the release of Heroes of Newerth 2.0, if one player on a team gets a streak of kills, all of the team is rewarded with coins for the micropayment shop. This further encourages teams working together to improve a single player's performance. In League of Legends, nearly every champion scales well with gear. For example, a tank can become extremely tanky, a spellcaster can nuke extremely hard at late game, and a melee class can hit extremely hard at late game. They can also mix gear for survivability and damage, and teams want to do this as much as is warranted. League of Legends does still have an emphasis on carries, and each team will generally need 1 to 2 well-geared carries to be successful. However, other roles such as pushers and initiators are able to farm well and gear up well. Heroes of Newerth is much more like an American football game, where the quarterback is the star player, And League of Legends is much more like basketball, where the roles are more evenly divided. The scaling of all of the roles in League of Legends can create problems. With every major patch, a new role becomes significantly stronger. For instance, when AoE champions were extremely powerful, tanky DPS champions who could survive the damage came into fashion. Once the AoE was nerfed, the tanky DPS champions became too strong. Now, Riot Games is nerfing tanky DPS champions, which could lead to another imbalance. Heroes of Newerth has a greater risk and reward factor to it, with a player losing gold when they are killed. This makes Heroes of Newerth a lot more reliant on safe play and a whole lot more frustrating early and mid-game. In League of Legends, players have summoner abilities, which are 2 spells they can choose from outside of the game that can be used throughout the game. These spells include an instant return on mana or health, teleportation, vision over an area, quick movement without collision, or an instant blink. Most of these have very long cooldowns. Heroes of Newerth puts abilities like this onto specific items. For instance, players may choose to purchase Ghost Marchers, which allow them to run faster without collision. Players can purchase a Portal Key, which allows them to instantly blink a good distance at the cost of mana. These items generally have short cooldowns, but are significant investments in the game that come at the cost of other items. Heroes of Newerth and League of Legends have a substantially different set of hero and champion abilities. While there is some crossover, for instance both Arachna and Ashe have on-attack slows, the types of abilities between the games are different. League of Legends has far more skill shots. These are abilities which must be aimed and will not necessarily hit their target if you don't aim it correctly, or the other player moves out of the way. League of Legends also gives accurate reticules for these so you can easily see where you're going to cast. Heroes of Newerth, on the other hand, has some skill shots, such as Devourer's Grab and Valkyrie's Javelin of Light, but they aren't as common and don't have targeting reticules. Heroes of Newerth generally has a much wider diversity of skills, and more importantly, diversity among heroes than League of Legends. For instance, Heroes of Newerth has fully fleshed out pet classes, which can control permanent pets in the game, as well as they can control their own heroes. One philosophy difference between the two companies is that Riot Games believes every champion they produce should have multiple active abilities because the individual champions are more fun that way. While this sounds good and their reasoning is fine, it winds up creating a narrower game. Heroes of Newerth has heroes that are built heavily around their auto attacks, sometimes with multiple passive abilities. It also has heroes such as Ophelia, which have an extremely high skill cap since they can manage not only their own character, but multiple minion characters, each with their own unique abilities. While League of Legends isn't unfriendly to new players, I like the wide range of skill requirements in Heroes of Newerth precisely because it allows experienced players to play with less experienced players, and not always suffer as a result. League of Legends has one very strong quality, especially as it relates to competitive play. There is very little randomness in the abilities. In League of Legends, you aren't going to find a blacksmith character with a tiny chance to do a 4x multicast spell. This is also true when evaluating items between the two games. The pet classes bring up an important distinction in the game engine. Heroes of Newerth makes use of pets on several classes, but also brings a very important one over from Dota, the Courier. This is a small monkey that either runs on land or, once upgraded, flies through the air carrying items from the fountain or the secret shop to your character. In Heroes of Newerth, you can also drop items directly onto the ground, and in most cases, attack those items or pick them back up. This is useful in some very specific situations, such as making room for a resurrection token from Kongor. The shop in Heroes of Newerth also contains a stash, allowing you to purchase items and hold on to them when you're not near your fountain. In League of Legends, you can teleport to your base freely anytime you need to purchase items or recover health. In Heroes of Newerth, you must purchase teleport scrolls, which cost money but allow you to teleport to any allied structure or the fountain. In normal games, League of Legends allows for players from both sides to play the same champions as their opponents. For instance, if one team has Garen, the opposing team can have Garen as well, but two people from the same team cannot play Garen. Though this changes in ranked games, you will only have access to normal mode for the entire leveling process. Most Heroes of Newerth game modes block duplicate heroes from being chosen, and the variety of popular game types allows for a more varied experience in each game. As a general rule, Heroes of Newerth has a more robust set of features when it comes to game types. League of Legends has a number of ways you can change your in-game experience before you've even started a game. This is done through purchasing specific champions, then purchasing and setting up rune pages with particular stat bonus, and then setting masteries, which are similar to talents in World of Warcraft. Unfortunately, this strongly discourages many players who can't afford multiple champions and their corresponding runes from trying out new champions. Even if a team would be best suited by having, say, an attack damage carry, a player is sometimes better off just playing the ability power support champion simply because they don't have what they need to jump into the new role. One of the most cited differences between League of Legends and Heroes of Newerth is denying. In Heroes of Newerth, allied creeps that are low on health can be auto-attacked and killed, denying your opponent some gold and experience. Towers at very low health can also be attacked and denied, massively decreasing the gold the other team would have received. Even allied heroes who are very low on health and have a damage over time debuff on them can be denied. In League of Legends, only one champion I'm aware of can do this, which is Gangplank. This is done using one of his abilities and it has a relatively long cooldown. Juking and escaping ganks is critical to both Heroes of Newerth and League of Legends. In Heroes of Newerth, there are small paths in the jungle and near the lanes that can be used to escape line of sight of a hero who might be ready to use an ability on you that can kill you. In League of Legends, the map is much simpler, and to hide you generally need to make use of brush. Brush are patches of grass that are not visible unless you're inside them. While Heroes of Newerth does have brush that blocks visibility, these go a step further by taking up enough space that allows you to stand inside them, not just on either side of them. Juking, or moving erratically, is essentially identical in either game. Whether you want to dodge a skill shot, fake people out, or just escape without being easily targetable, you can do this in either game using bends in the terrain, passages in trees, or brush. In League of Legends, the terrain on the map is static and cannot be altered or destroyed. Heroes of Newerth has a more dynamic system. Trees can be destroyed using items or abilities, and several heroes can run through terrain. This increases the variety of opponents and tactics you'll come across in Heroes of Newerth. There are multiple map differences between the games. League of Legends has two maps, though Summoner's Rift, the 5v5 map, is the only one that is used in most games. This map is relatively simple and highly symmetrical, with each of the three lanes players must defend being approximately equal to each other. Ganking locations are clearly defined, and pathways and brush are very clearly defined. Heroes of Newerth has two serious maps. The first, Forests of Kaldivar, is a standard 5v5 option, and is very similar to the original Dota map. This map does not have symmetry between the lanes, leading to a dynamic where each lane requires a different approach for the teams. For instance, because of the distance creeps must travel from when they spawn, the bottom lane for Legion is easier to defend while staying close to the tower. In addition, it is generally easier for Legion to gank the bottom lane than it is to gank the top lane. Forests of Kaldivar is a very complex map, requiring extensive experience with it to learn all of the intricacies. This map is not nearly as friendly to the new players as Summoner's Rift is in League of Legends. With Heroes of Newerth 2.0, S2 Games has released a small 3v3 map called Grimm's Crossing. This map is far simpler to understand for new players, but still maintains virtually all of the interesting terrain features found throughout Forests of Kaldivar. For a new player, Grimm's Crossing would be more similar to Blood Gulch in the original Halo, whereas Forests of Kaldivar would be more similar to Chiron TL34. Yes, that map. In my opinion, Grimm's Crossing is the best MOBA map released to date in any game, but unfortunately it can only be used in 3v3 lineups. Wards between the games are identical and equally important. You will not be competitive in either game if you're not buying wards early and often. In League of Legends, it's generally a requirement for the entire team to be buying wards. In Heroes of Newerth, the number of wards available is limited by time, and it's usually left to support heroes to purchase and place wards. The towers in League of Legends hit substantially harder than they do in Heroes of Newerth. However, the towers in League of Legends will only attack you if there are no minions in range, or if you attack an enemy champion. In Heroes of Newerth, towers can begin attacking you even if you have not met these criteria. In League of Legends, neutral creeps will not aggro you if you run past them in the jungle. However, in Heroes of Newerth, running too close to neutral creeps will cause them to chase you and attack you, which can be disastrous if you're low on health or being chased. Neutral creeps also respawn differently between the two games. In Heroes of Newerth, neutral creeps respawn on exact minute markers and will respawn as long as there are no other units in their place. This allows for creep stacking, which occurs when you aggro a group of creeps and pull them outside of their respawn immediately before the minute marker, allowing new creeps to spawn while the old are still alive. Once the creeps you pulled leash back, you have a stacked camp. In League of Legends, neutral creeps respawn a set amount of time after they were last killed. League of Legends and Heroes of Newerth both have jungles that heroes can immediately jump into and complete their early game leveling in. However, it is less common for teams to have exclusive junglers in Heroes of Newerth than it is in League of Legends. Though Riot has said it wants to reduce the importance of jungling in the future, it is currently nearly mandatory for an effective team to have a player doing this. Both League of Legends and Heroes of Newerth have temporary buff systems, but these come in different forms. In League of Legends, temporary buffs can be obtained by killing jungle monsters or Baron Nashor, and can also be obtained by purchasing elixirs from the item shop. Heroes of Newerth has one major monster, Kongor, which provides a resurrection token, but other buffs cannot be obtained from the jungle unless a player can mind control the creeps. However, Heroes of Newerth has runes, objects placed outside of the normal lane areas, which can provide double damage, haste, invisibility, or illusion copies of your hero. The communities. The League of Legends and Heroes of Newerth communities are very different. In Heroes of Newerth, you will frequently find trash talking at all levels of play. For most people, this is a major turn-off to the game, and I know plenty of people who've given up entirely on the MOBA genre because they had such a bad experience with the Heroes of Newerth community. Even with the tutorials, neither Heroes of Newerth nor League of Legends effectively prepare people for the competitive game environment they're about to enter. Small mistakes in Heroes of Newerth are more likely to cost the game than they are in League of Legends, which is one part of the reason the community is more unforgiving. For better or worse, this is an unavoidable part of the game and community, and you can either jump right in or ignore it. The best thing you can do is continue to work on improving your gameplay. By virtue of being a totally free game, as well as having a rigid matchmaking system, League of Legends has its own problems. Short of doing all of your early leveling with an in-house group, you're going to be faced with an extremely high rate of leavers. In most of my low-level games, 2 to 3 people would quit the game, often leaving a major imbalance in the teams. Players who would leave most frequently do so because they're frustrated or feel so lost that they're embarrassed to keep playing the match. This is totally out of your control. You will lose games because of this, and you'll win games because of this. No matter what, the gameplay is ruined by leavers, since people have to stick it out for an imbalanced game. In the mid and high level range, you can usually identify frequent leavers by the amount of chat they're doing within a game. If people are trash talking, being jerks, or just talking a lot, we found there's about a 50% chance you'll find out that they're a frequent game leaver in the post-game stat screen. Riot claims it has just put in harsher rules on leavers, but we have yet to see if this does anything about leaving at low levels. Another problem with League of Legends is Smurf accounts, or low-level alternate accounts made by high-level players for the purpose of getting queued against newbies. This happens somewhat frequently, but there are also issues where people have come to League of Legends from Dota or Heroes of Newerth and are simply good at MOBA games. Regardless, the leveling system does not have a strong correlation to the skill level of players in League of Legends, and if you're brand new to the game, you may come across serious issues. In higher levels, League of Legends tends to shift towards the Heroes of Newerth community, with fewer leavers or smurfs, but more frustration and more trolling. The official forums for each game have their differences. Heroes of Newerth has a more specific and organized forum structure. However, it also has a forum community more prone to trolling. The League of Legends forums, on the other hand, are limited. Like World of Warcraft, the general discussion dump goes by too fast to be of worth to anyone except those looking strictly for Riot's own posts. League of Legends has one feature I wish every forum would pick up: community post ratings. Trolls tend to be locked out of discussions through downvotes, and the upvotes help determine the quality posts for new players. While the player communities are different between the games, it is similarly true that the developers behind the game also behave differently. I don't follow every announcement or post from the developers, but it's been my experience that Riot Games employees are a lot more prone to being callous towards their community and towards their competitors. S2 seems more gracious and more directly involved with their community. Both Heroes of Newerth and League of Legends suffer from underexperienced players doling out bad advice or criticizing others when they've failed. The surest way to spot poor players is when you see, quote, "It took 3 of you to kill me," in global chat in either game. Players who express frustration over being team ganked in a team game are awful players, and in these cases, the player not only left themselves open to a gank, but didn't realize how stupid it was to do that. That said, just because someone is being critical doesn't in and of itself make them a bad player. Both Heroes of Newerth and League of Legends are learning games with a high knowledge requirement, and there are always people who know more than you or are better than you. If you frequently see similar criticisms, you should evaluate whether you may need to improve your own gameplay. Both games have inherent player skill issues within their matches that can create issues. The most obvious issue is one where 2 teams are matched together and one team has a significantly higher skill level. This may be enjoyable for the higher skill level team, but it is frustrating for the lower skill level team. The second issue occurs when there's a significant imbalance within one team, where there are good players and not so good players relying on each other. The first thing that causes this is groups of friends queuing together. If 2 to 4 people group up and one of them is brand new or simply not a very good player, it may be fine for that group since they expect it, but the people who are on the team but aren't part of that group of friends pay the price for it. The second thing that causes this is the pregame system for League of Legends and Heroes of Newerth. In League of Legends, matchmaking based on level is virtually never an accurate indicator of skill, though high-end ranked ELO matches do a much better job pairing good players with each other. Heroes of Newerth is just now implementing its matchmaking system, but has not made it accessible as of this recording. However, the same issues come up in the pregame lobbies for Heroes of Newerth. Even with all the stats you're able to see on a player profile, you still cannot easily guess how good they are until you're in the very high PSR ranges. Additionally, with the removal of Easy Mode in Heroes of Newerth 2.0, there's now no indicator on how many games a player has played on Easy Mode. Players with high Easy Mode counts can have a high PSR but are generally less familiar with the flow of normal mode games than others within the same PSR. Mismatches within a team are easily the most frustrating thing inside MOBAs, as it feels like your time is being wasted. If your team is not playing at its best and you're losing as a result of it, you will want to punch kittens. Balanced games are ideal for learning and are fun for players, even if you lose. Heroes of Newerth claims its new matchmaking system will better match players of the same skill level. We'll see. So which game should you pick up? League of Legends is easier to pick up and play. The community playing it is generally better, but the high rate of leavers and early levels will waste your time. League of Legends has a strong matchmaking system and a large number of players on at any given time, so getting into a game isn't difficult. While the game is free to play, you will spend more money to get nearly the same options available from Heroes of Newerth. That said, the free-to-play option is the biggest selling point for this game, and it's clearly a reason to give it a try. Heroes of Newerth is technically a better game in nearly every category, but comes with a worse community. If you're playing with friends, or if you have a thick skin, then this may be the game you're looking for. Heroes of Newerth generally requires more knowledge, presenting you with a steep learning cliff that will take weeks and months to overcome. Heroes of Newerth is a game that caters to competitive play on every level. This means there is more functionality in statistics, replays, ladders, casting, and other features that simply aren't handled well by League of Legends. Both games are ultimately competitive, and both games ultimately require skill. While Heroes of Newerth has a higher skill cap, I'd bet that 95% of players in both games never reach a skill level where this actually matters. In the end, play the game you're most interested in or the one that most of your friends are playing. Don't listen to the trolls, they're both solid games. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to my channel and feel free to drop in any requests for future game movies.